We covered the Black Ghost, and look, I'm just gonna say what a lot of people already know but won't put on camera. That story has more holes than a quarter panel at a demo derby. Word of mouth, cruise night folklore, a mystery that got more dramatic every decade because nobody could actually prove it. That's what a ghost is, something nobody can confirm. But the Silver Bullet? Chrysler confirmed it, the odometer confirmed it, the blue trunk confirmed it. This isn't mythology, this is documentation. The 1967 Plymouth GTX Silver Bullet isn't a street racer's car that became a legend. It's a Chrysler Engineering weapon that was supposed to be crushed and somehow ended up on Woodward Avenue, making grown men question every decision they'd ever made. This isn't a story about a guy street racing. This is a story about Chrysler's own engineers cheating on public roads, and they were very, very good at it. The evidence. This isn't a myth. Let's start with what separates the Silver Bullet from every other Woodward legend: documentation. The Silver Bullet wasn't someone's personal car, it was a Chrysler test mule, built inside the factory by factory engineers using experimental parts that never appeared in any production catalog. This thing was a rolling R&D lab disguised as a muscle car. And here's the detail that tells you everything you need to know about what Chrysler was doing with it. The odometer reads 277 miles. That's it. 277 miles on a car that was allegedly out there destroying everything on Woodward. Now, why does that number matter? Because Chrysler had an internal policy, call it the 300-mile death sentence. Test mules that hit 300 miles on the odometer were flagged for destruction. They got crushed, shredded, gone. No paper trail, no liability, no evidence that Chrysler was running experimental technology on public streets. The Silver Bullet was a 277 when it slipped out the back door. They handed the keys to Jimmy Addison, the manager at the Sunoco station right on Woodward. But Jimmy wasn't just pumping gas, he was Chrysler's unofficial street boss. If an engineer needed to know whether a part actually worked, they didn't put it on a dyno, they gave it to Jimmy and told him to go kill a Chevelle with it. Jimmy was the real-world validation program. And somehow, when this car was supposed to go to the crusher at 300, it ended up in Jimmy's hands at 277 instead. Call it paperwork, call it a favor, call it the luckiest clerical error in muscle car history. That's not a campfire story. That's a documented survival. The odometer is sitting right there. You can go look at it. Compare that to the Black Ghost narrative, where the facts expanded for decades through cruise night retellings. The Silver Bullet's receipts are built into the car itself. That's the difference between legend and evidence. The factory cheat tech. Now here's where this gets genuinely insane, because the engineering choices on this car weren't just about making it fast, they were specifically designed to hide how fast it was. This was psychological warfare on wheels. The engine hustle. Pop the hood and the air cleaner says 426, looks like a standard elephant motor. Every guy on Woodward knew what a 426 Hemi was, respected it, feared it, but knew how to race against one. They'd done the math in their head, they knew what they were dealing with. Except that's not what this was. Inside, it stroked out to 487 cubic inches. It was a lie cast in iron. You thought you were lining up against a Hemi, you were lining up against something that had no business being on a public street. The exhaust con. Street racers in 1967 wanted loud, open headers, straight pipes, something that announced they were coming before you even saw them. Loud exhaust was part of the intimidation game. You heard a serious car. Chrysler's engineers understood that, and they exploited it completely. The Silver Bullet runs 4 1968 Cadillac mufflers. Cadillac, the luxury barge brand. The engineers sourced mufflers from the quietest, most docile car in the GM lineup and stuffed them under that 487 cubic inch stroker. The result? A car that sounds like it's on its way to pick up groceries right until the light goes green and it's gone. You lined up against the Silver Bullet and you heard nothing, maybe a little burble, sounded stock, sounded slow, and by the time you figured out you'd been played, the race was already over. The weight hack. Pop the doors on the Silver Bullet and look at the seats. Those are A100 Dodge van seats, not GTX seats, not performance seats. Van seats, the cheapest, most utilitarian seats in the entire Chrysler parts bin. They look like something you'd find in a plumber's work van from 1967, because that's exactly what they are. But the engineers weren't going for comfort, they were going for weight. Those van seats were the lightest bucket seats Chrysler manufactured. Every pound they could strip out of this car was another tenth of a second on the track. Nobody lining up against this thing was looking at the interior and thinking, that's a factory engineering decision. They were thinking it was some hack job interior swap. That was the point. The fiberglass secret. Walk up to the Silver Bullet. Look at the doors, the fenders, the hood, the deck lid. Looks like steel, right? Looks totally stock. It's not. Every one of those panels is factory experimental fiberglass, developed internally at Chrysler before fiberglass body panels were a mainstream concept in American muscle. And the reason you can't tell? Because they were engineered to look identical to the steel production panels. Same lines, same fitment, same appearance. The deception was built in at the manufacturing level. The result of all of this, the fiberglass body, the van seats, every stripped pound, is a car that weighs 3,200 pounds. That is 1,200 pounds lighter than a modern Challenger Hellcat. Think about that. A Hellcat needs 700 horsepower just to move its own fat ass down the track. The Silver Bullet was flying at 3,200 pounds with a stroked motor and no traction control, no launch control, nothing. It's simple physics. Less weight plus more motor equals the other guy watching your taillights. The blue trunk smoking gun. Now here's the detail that separates real automotive history from clone drama and tribute car nonsense. Pop the trunk on the Silver Bullet. It's blue. Not silver. Blue. Because the car left the Chrysler factory painted blue, the same shade of blue that was all over Chrysler's racing program at the time. Jimmy painted it silver, after he got it. Corvette silver specifically. He wanted it to look different. Wanted the street presence of that color under the Woodward lights, but he didn't paint the trunk. And that unpainted trunk is the fingerprint. That is the DNA evidence. Anybody can build a clone of a famous car. Anybody can slap together a tribute. But you cannot fake a blue trunk on a car that's supposed to have left the factory silver. The paint history is locked into that car permanently. Original factory blue hiding under a street hustler's respray. Sitting there for anyone who knows what they're looking at. When people argue about the Black Ghost's history, there's debate, conflicting accounts, details that evolved over the decades. The Silver Bullet doesn't have that problem. The evidence is in the car. The odometer, the experimental parts, the blue trunk. It's all there. The king stays king. So here's where we land. The Black Ghost is a cool story. Maybe it was made up. Maybe it was made to enhance the value of a car. Who knows? We still think it is a cool story, regardless of the actual truths behind it. Just something to think about. But the Silver Bullet isn't a story, it's a result. It was never beaten. A documented factory-built test mule running low 10-second passes on Woodward Avenue in 1967. Do you understand how insane that is? 10-second streetcars in 1967 were practically science fiction. Professional drag racers at sanctioned tracks were chasing those numbers with full race builds. This thing was doing it in a car that sounded like a Cadillac and looked like something your uncle drove to church. The Black Ghost is a myth that became a legend. The Silver Bullet is a legend that was engineered to be one by the guys at Chrysler who knew exactly what they were building and exactly what it was going to do on that street. One has receipts. One has a blue trunk. One has 277 miles on the clock and a destroyed field of Challengers behind it. You want the myth or you want the machine?
Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep going deeper into the real history because there's more where this came from.